Hello, and welcome to Ideas with Diana. Hello, and welcome to Ideas with Diana on this September 30th, 2022. Well, today's show is about one topic. Are we under a new double secret probation? This week, many things have happened, and many world events have happened, including basically one group voting to be annexed by another country, energy prices going through the roof, food insecurity, about 211 ships that left Ukraine under a broker deal, but only two of them reached Africa where they really need the grain. And even in Europe, people complaining about being farmers being pushed too far by grain that's from those boats that are too cheap that they can't stay in business, and even new rules. With us in the United States, higher gas prices today. Gas prices finally came down to about $4.09 in this area. So for those that compute in liters, I think that's about €1 and 40 cents in euros right there for those who compute in liters. But the thing is, the title: Are we under a new double secret probation? Well, the double secret probation refers to a movie that was filmed at UW-Madison in the late 1970s called Animal House. Animal House was about a college in the 1960s with a very stuck-up administrator and professors and a group of free thinkers. And when it was filmed at Madison, it's very liberating because even at Madison, they're not as open-minded as some people think. Because just for those of us who remember when Timbuk 3 came out, the song "The Future's So Bright, My Professor Wears Shades." There were some people who actually liked that song so much that they actually couldn't stay in Madison. They actually, for some reason, they had to complete their degrees at UT Austin. So it shows even Madison back then had limits. So again, the double secret probation. And what do I mean? So in the Animal House movie, what it was is this one group of free thinkers came and they protested at basically how they're being singled out because they weren't going along with the party line or the managed media or the fake news or the fake belief system. And the dean says, well, I'm going to get you. I'm putting you under double secret probation. And then as they walked out, they went, la 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 la, singing the national anthem as a way of implying that basically the Dean Werner in the movie was not being American and not respecting their freedoms. And there have been other groups who've gone to different school board meetings, different Common Council meetings who did the same thing when they felt Common Council school board wasn't listening to their views or respecting what they had to say and being fair. They just walk out saying la 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 with the national anthem, meaning that basically they're believing in freedom, but the group they're turning their backs, walking out as the singing does not. So how does this all relate? Well, during this time, many challenges to paradigms have happened. I won't name them because basically many people who do follow news, not the managed news or the fake news, are aware of this. And but I'll just say this one comment that this year we really had to challenge how we think about multiple paradigms because basically people are starting to realize, with COVID, that was that was really for many people the first shakeup. It's like, well, wait, we thought government had all these diseases under control, and then when the COVID came, it's like, and you had to go in lockdown. And even for us in Wisconsin, we remember March 13th because that's the day that we went on lockdown, and Barnes and Noble, many bars shut down, and other places, and and it really wasn't until this year that many places could fully open like that. And the reason why for us in Wisconsin is so hard is because at one point you could only take the bus if you were doing essential activities. So that meant you either had to walk long distances to the store, or basically, and if your heart wasn't good, or you're disabled, slightly disabled, you have to do it as well. And even people driving, it's the same thing. You could only go out on essential items. So basically, it was a scary thing to see Ohio Street and Washington Avenue almost devoid of cars like that at certain times of daylight hours. Then after COVID, then it was, well, are we going to have a sports season for entertainment? At first, it's considered having two college seasons in one, and finally, a college player spoke up and said, "Look, our bodies can't take two seasons in one." And luckily, President Trump basically showed leadership, said, "No, we're having a sports season, even if it's abbreviated. We're not going to go two seasons and put college athletes through that or anyone else through that." So he showed leadership, even though some people still don't think of Trump. And then other people sort of started to question other things. Well, why is it that somehow, according to the managed media, the fake media, that one side has all the answers and has all the ideas, while everyone else has to stay quiet and put their brain in neutral? There's a term we used to use when I went to high school. I mean, putting your brain in neutral meant being a zombie or a robot, like in like in Kepler's stories, or even like in Stanislav Lem's stories, where they had the story about people who had to believe that they were fish, so they had to go down and swim to the office and with an air breathe and do the work like they're fish or amphibians, to demonstrate the fallacy of bad management, bad leadership. So this brings us to double secret probation. Many things have happened this week, and there's even been threats that if people speak out, that don't go with a certain political party line or something else, that they're going to be highly prosecuted. I remember watching the Roger Waters interview on RT, and about what his thoughts were, and even when I watched another famous TV show, basically when I was over visiting a friend, we were watching TMZ, and there's something they mentioned about the Roger Waters interview, and I didn't catch the whole thing, but to me it sounded like it really, they sort of were questioning why he did the interview and what he said. And what happens though is, you know, the thing I remember, even during the Cold War, at the height of the Cold War, even during the 1970s and 1980s, what happened was we in the so-called West could still speak our minds. Our press could still speak without having to have it managed or subverted or censored by the fake news. We still could speak in light. And I used to read. At the college I went to, they had magazines as Der Spiegel, Le Monde, Paris Match, London Times, and also Guardian, Independent. You see where I'm going. And also many journals from Oxford and Cambridge, as well as European journals from Italy and Poland and other things. And even one thing which I found was really interesting. Let me get a pop. A friend always says I should be prepared when I do this, but this one's going to be quick. Let me get a pop for you. Where are you? I saw you. Okay. Well, now this looks like a standard book. It is, but what's interesting about this. So when you look at the two authors, this book was published by researchers from the University of Warsaw in 1984 while the Cold War was on. And Warsaw at that time was part of the Warsaw Pact of Nations, Warsaw Pact. But yet at Parkside, this book was made available, and I read it. It's about how to make a prologue compiler, and I'll just show you something here, which is interesting about the list structure. But this is something which I thought was really interesting. Let me go here. We're almost there. Hold on. Let's see. Well, here's an example of a prologue that does a simulation called War Plan, about the results and about going into a box in a room. Well, oh, there we go. Now we're coming to it. Just a minute. Almost. This is it. This is the toy interpreter that they included for Polo Gritton. And this program was written, and actually the group wrote this in 1983. Felix Kluzniak and Stanislav Spaskowitz at the Institute of Informatics at Warsaw University. And this program was written on their version of a PDP 1170 computer. So basically, because you have to remember at that time there are two computer standards, basically on the NATO and the Warsaw Pact computer standards. And this book was written, and it was sold across the West, and it became very popular. And there's another book, basically that was made as well. And let's see, there we go. There's another book that's made in Poland, and this book, let's see, was published. Let's see, it was published when? I think, well, this is the 1987, but it was originally published in 1978. And this book became actually as part of a Netflix movie, a guide to love. It's called A Practical Guide to Marriage Bliss. It's written by a doctor who also studied sexual relations in Poland. And this was published in 1978 by Michalina Wyszlawska, and it was published originally by Państwowa Wydawnictwo. Excuse my Polish. My parents and grandparents never taught me to really speak Polish, so I sort of caught it, even because they didn't want me to go through what my grandparents went through and my dad went through when my dad was born, of having to try to learn two languages too soon. So, but I do speak multiple languages. And also this book was published in America by M&A Publishing Company. But again, during the Cold War, we didn't fear ideas being shared. We didn't have any double secret probation or any threats if we thought unclearly that we would be prosecuted or anything else, as I've heard this week. And this book was very popular. They only thought in Poland that they were going to sell 1 million copies to state authorities. In Poland, it sold 10 million copies of this book, and I think over 50 million outside of Poland. This book sold many copies. In addition to Stanislav Lem, which I don't have, with the Star Diaries. So, again, why the double secret probation? If we really are defending freedom, we should allow all ideas to speak, like we did even during the Cold War. Some people say it was a war of ideas, fine, but it was a war not done with bullets, bombs, and bombing buildings and making people starve. But it was a war of ideas. We wrote books, and it wasn't under the threat that if you don't support the managed media or the fake media line of thought, or whoever the dominating group that feels that they have more power than the collective freedom of intellectuals and other people, that you're going to be prosecuted. Is that really how we should demonstrate that we're defending freedom? Because even in the Cold War, we had a war of ideas. And a second example, in 1970. My parents owned an apartment building. We were in business from 1921 to 1985, Connecticut Apartments, and in 1975 we had two students come from China, and it was part of the daytime process. And what happened was they came in, and they wanted to rent an apartment from us. So what happened was, they're going to Carthage College, and they came in as the Chang brothers, and they were from Shanghai. And when my dad came, my dad being my dad, and my parents being my parents, they're very open-minded because they didn't think about politics or ideology. Again, they thought about ideas, and they said they looked like two nice young men who were studying college and wanted to rent an apartment, and they rented an apartment from us, and actually, to me, basically at the time, they were very much like two older brothers to me, like that, though, because at the time I was 12 years old and I was still doing model building. I sort of choke up when I talk about this. And what happened was, one thing like my dad had on his desk, when we used to build models together, was he had a model car that I made before the Chang brothers came, and the second model car I made after building model cars with the Chang brothers. And he showed just how much that they had taught me about how to improve my skills in model building and how much detail. And my dad said, China, once they get things going, they really are going to be a world leader and stuff. And the Chang brothers done. And also with the Chang brothers, they took me out to Carthage because at one time they said, well, this is you should where you should go to university because they treated the Chang brothers great when they were out there. And many times the Chang brothers would invite us over for dinner upstairs in their apartment. And I remember one time I came and I tried to use chopsticks. Let's see if I can still remember. Let's see. Tried to use chopsticks like this, and what happened was they saw they appreciate that I gave it a try, but then what they did is they offered me a knife and fork so that I could eat that way, and they're very polite, very worldly, very understanding. And now the thing is, you have to remember 1975, this is the height of the Cold War, so we still had some people where we lived in Kenosha that talked about us versus them, the West versus the East or something. But when we met the Chang brothers, we didn't think about the West versus the East. We thought they were two nice, they're two good brothers, very nice, very well mannered, wonderful to be neighbors with, wonderful people to know. And on an individual basis, I mean, they like I said, they were great, and also they're like older brothers to me, like that though. At a time when I really needed an older brother because my parents and I were going through a difficult time, and they really were like the older brothers and I still remember them fondly. I mean, if I do get a chance to travel to China, I would like to stop by and say hello and that though and stuff like that. Although I'm 60. That means that they would be in the maybe late 70s or 80s like that though. I still would like to say hello and stuff. And so when I think about this thing going on this year, I mean, it's like, that's part of the reason why sometimes I can't watch the news because it's too upsetting when I see one-sided presentations, like with the managed media and fake media. And I won't name names, but that's sometimes why I watch more RT, and sometimes less of the managed and fake news. And other people have done too, because their viewership has gone up 5 times, especially among certain ethnic groups. And also, when I hear this thing about Russophobia and other thing, I remember at one point in the 70s during the Cold War, when my dad ran for alderman in Kenosha. There were 2 people who were very racist, very biased, because they said, well, my ancestry is of my family is actually Polish Prussian, and what happens depending on where my grandfather city lived, the borders changed many times. So at one point it's German Prussian, maybe even some other countries like that though, and on my dad's side and on my mother's side. German, Scotch, Irish, and Norman. And so, when I heard this one person disparaging people from Eastern European, it really hurt us because my 6th grade teacher was Mr. Suchek, who was a deacon of the Russian Orthodox Church in our neighborhood. We had 2 Catholic churches and we had 1 Russian Orthodox church. One church was known as the Italian Catholic Church, where many people are Italian descent. One was the Polish Catholic Church, St. Casimir's, where people who were of Polish ancestry went. And then there's the Russian Orthodox. But all of us, during the summer, we each had our festivals, and we each went to our festivals. Because at the Russian church, we had halumki and pierogi, and even at the Polish church, in that we have kadunki and pierogi, and I still miss the kadunki, the big stuffed cabbage that my grandmother used to make, and actually the halumki that my grandma used to make. Some people call it pierogi, but there's a difference. Halumki, which is made with egg like that though, and stuff, and the thing is, when we met, it wasn't this phobia, this clash. Well, we're not going to work with you because you're different than we are. And I was like, look, we're all neighbors. We all live together. no, we don't have any gripes. We don't have it. And even like with foreign events, we all were united that people should be allowed to speak. People should be allowed to speak freely, because that's the difference between a free society and a totalitarian society. When someone acts like a Dean Warman says, "Well, if you don't speak the way we think, we're gonna discipline you." Well, welcome to like some things I heard this week and this morning. Well, hello, Dean Warmer the second, and to many intellectuals, they're going to start singing la 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 as we sort of say, "I'm sorry, but that's not defending freedom. If you really want to defend freedom, you allow people to speak in light, and you trust free people to make their own decisions. You don't put, as I demonstrated before, you don't cover their eyes, you don't put them in blinders, you don't muzzle their mouth, you don't muzzle what they hear. So, as I've said in other shows to everyone, keep your courage, be strong, be strong, be strong. And also remember, even though some leaders may claim that they control everything, mankind is not the highest existence. There is a higher existence, whether you believe in faith, spirituality, or something else. There is a higher existence. I believe in faith. So I believe the higher existence is still yet to come, which is why I still believe in faith. So be strong, be strong, be strong. And I like to hear comments from you. So the best way to reach me is to send comments at Twitter at Diana1A. Or for some who don't like Twitter, if you would send me a comment as to which type of social media would be best for you to send comments to, like Telegram or was it Odyssey or Rumble. Well, let me know like that, because I'm trying to manage my social media so I don't get overwhelmed. So just let me know what's an alternative social media if you wish for me to step. So if you wish to send comments, or even just if you have YouTube, post them in the comments section. And that. So this has been Ideas with Diana, and I'd like to thank you for watching today's show. And keep strong, keep independent, think independent, be strong, be free, be strong.